All right, so now that we have our MetaMask connection going and we're able to pull our wallet ID, the next step is to make a call to Opensea and pull all the collections that are in this wallet so that we can list the collections with the floor price. So the Opensea API, I'll include a link with the docs for this tutorial, but the Opensea API is pretty simple and straightforward, pretty easy to use. One thing to note, if you are just using this for testing and you're not going to be making, a lot of calls and, you're not too worried about security when you're just testing things out and all of that, you don't need to request an API key just to test it out. You can actually just start making calls without an API key. If you do want to request an API key, I think it takes a day or two for Opensea to get back to you, but it was pretty simple. It's literally like a Google form you fill out, and then they'll shoot you an email with your API key a couple days later. But don't need that for this lesson. So we're going to be using this call, retrieving collections, and we can see here it's a GET call. We've got the URL that we want to make the call to, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And in terms of parameters, we can see that there's only three. There's the asset owner, which this would actually be the wallet address that we get back from MetaMask. And then there's an offset and a limit if you want to do pagination. But for our purposes, we can roll with just the wallet ID that will pass in and get all the collections in the wallet. So let's go back into Builder, and the trigger for making this call to Opensea is going to be a successful MetaMask connection. So in the last lesson, we did connect to MetaMask, and then on success, we're setting some values for the status message and for the button. We're going to add another step here for the Opensea API call. So first, let's create a new flow, and we're going to call this get collections for wallet. And the action is going to be an API call. And as we noted, it's a GET call is the method that we want to use. The URL I just copied, so I'll paste that in for the Opensea URL. Parameters, again, we're just going to use this one called asset owner. So that'll be our parameter. It'll be from a variable, and the variable is on the root page. Well, that's actually the current page, so that's fine. We can leave that as current page. And the variable is MetaMask _ wallet. So that will pass our wallet ID. Let's go ahead and set a limit, and I'll just do something like 20. That should be fine. So that will return only 20 collections, and I'm really just setting that limit for testing. So in terms of how we want to handle the response, we're going to leave it as save response as a variable. We'll save it on the current page because we're still on our home page. And this variable, we will call it Opensea collections. I like to use camel case, but do as you like. So Opensea collections is the variable name. And then we can run a flow on success or error. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this variable and set that into the grid row. So we'll add another action called set value. We'll put a wait in between because we want to wait till the API call is done and that variable gets set. And then the value we want to change is our grid list, and we're going to pull it from that new variable we just created. So that variable was called Opensea collections. So that will set that list of collections into our grid list. One thing I should note, in the Opensea API docs, for the asset owner, you can actually paste in your wallet ID and then hit this try it button, and it will give you it'll make the actual call and give you a response, so you can see what the response data will look like. And we can see here that's it's an array, and right here at the top level it just is an array of all the collections. So I don't need to specify a path because the return value that I'm setting into this Opensea collections variable is an array, which is exactly what I want for my grid list. So, all right, so that's our flow for get connections for a wallet. We want to trigger that on success. So I'm going to use the nest button and select get collections for wallet. Since these first two are just setting values, I don't really need a wait in between. I can just call this right away. So that'll make the API call to OpenSea, and we'll load any collections into our list. Now we want to do something with that data. So we've got it set to our grid list, but our row isn't using it. So if we were to run this right now, we wouldn't really see much happen. So on our collection row, we want to start using some of those variables. So we have an image, we have a collection name, we have floor price. Those are the values that we want to populate. So on our image, we're going to hit the data tab, and we're going to say from a variable. And to find out what variable we need to use, we can go back to OpenSea and look at this response data. So for each result, which is a collection, I can see here there's a banner image URL that's at the top level. I want to grab that. So I'm going to copy that, and this image value is going to be from a variable called banner image URL. Builder automatically takes the parameters, the key value pairs for each result, and it sets them into variables that you can use in your row. So that's all I'm doing here. So same for the collection name. So for this one, if we look at our results, we can see here there is a name. So we'll go into data, from a variable, name, and then floor price. If we go back to our results, we will find somewhere in here. Under stats, we have floor price as the last stat in here. So what we'll do for that is on our floor price, we'll say from a variable, and actually, you know what we want to do? I just realized, we want to say stats dot floor price. So we can use dot notation to say, first get the stats object, and then from the stats object, we want the floor price parameter. So now we should have an image, a title, name of our collection, and a floor price that all load when we have a successful connection to MetaMask. So let's test that out. We'll go here and refresh. We see connect your wallet. We'll hit connect, go through the connection. We see signing in. We see our button change, and then we see all of these collections load. So now we've got a collection, and each collection has a floor price on it. This is the result we were looking for, so this is great. We'll pause here. In the next lesson, we will handle setting up the rows for each of our individual assets, and we want those to load when you click on the collection. So we will do that in the next one.